Now, the next moment I want to talk about is when I came to the Lord. It's my salvation story. So like I said before, I lived a life of homosexuality. I partied, I drank, I slept with men of all ages. I lived my life recklessly. I think I've had every STD possible, everyone. I think I've always had to go and get a cure, get a medicine, and go through the event. So I had them all. So this was a moment when on a Friday night, I had went and got tested. Me and my friends would do this as a routine. We would go get tested because we knew we were living reckless. So I went and I got tested, and I found out I had another STD. And I went into this great depression. I was like, man, I can't continue to live my life like this. Because even though I didn't have a Christian background, I didn't grow up with a knowing of who Christ was, I had this thing in my heart that was like, this wasn't the life that was designed for me. And I would even tell people that, this is temporary. At some point, I'm gonna have a wife, I'm gonna have children, and this is just something that I'm doing. I didn't say it was like God or that God was gonna transform my life. I just knew this wasn't my destination. So long story short, a friend of mine that I raised up, that knew the Lord, that backslid, me and him was close friends. So he called me 5 o'clock in the morning. This was a Friday night when I got the news. On Sunday morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, he called me and he said, listen, I need you to come to church. I was like, why? And I was like depressed all weekend. I was like, I'm not going to no church. He was like, listen, I OD'd on ecstasy, but the Lord saved my life behind a bar. And he said, I swallowed 2 pills. I heard the voice of God, and then I spit up these 2 pills behind the bar, and I called my pastor, and he brought me to church. So I'm like, what? I'm like, man, wow. First, that story is bogus. And second of all, like, what? So long story short, I got up that morning. I went to church. I tried to get there late. He told me to be at 10 o'clock. I tried to get there late. But as soon as I walked into the church, I'll never forget, I felt an undeniable presence of God. It was like, and it was so overwhelming that I started to cry, and I was embarrassed because I didn't want anybody to see me. So I quickly went to my seat and I sat down. Throughout that service, there was deliverance going on in the background. He was having this moment, and I felt that presence again, and I'll never forget, the room went dark. It was completely dark, and all I could see is this one guy out my peripheral vision. And then I too heard the voice of God. God said, this is the day that I'm gonna save your life. And when they do the altar call, I want you to join this church, and I promise that I'm gonna raise you up. So when the altar call came, I had this moment, had this encounter. The altar call came, and as soon as the pastor said, do you want to join? I ran to the altar, and he embraced me. And that he embraced me like a father. And at that moment, my life was never be the same. That started my journey with the Lord. That was June 22nd, 2003.